Folks from Oregon may know that my Congresswoman Maxine Dexter is a physician. She is part of the Democratic Doctors Caucus in the House. So at her town hall today, she got a question from one of her constituents that I want to share with you. The question was, you're a doctor. In your expert opinion, what's going on with our president in terms of his dementia? Y'all, this got raucous laughter from the crowd. Everybody was busting up. The questioner went on to be like, it's hella scary, right? This is a man who has the nuclear codes. This is a man who's obviously sundowning, and right, it's concerning that we're not seeing the media question his mental capacity, his cognitive status, the way that they did with Joe Biden for literally years. Where is Jake Tapper talking about Donald Trump's cognitive status? Where is Jake Tapper talking about why Donald Trump is nodding off, why he's slurring through speeches, why he's barfing up a bunch of word salad, why he obviously is in decline? I like to say he has the dwindles. That's what you say when an elderly person is clearly running downhill as their body and their mind are wearing out and they are coming to the end of their life. Donald Trump is nearly 80 years old. And yet we have the press and Republicans trying to gaslight us into thinking that he's fine. What we're seeing in terms of his speech, in terms of the slumping that he has on one side of his face, in terms of his falling asleep in the middle of the day, in terms of the fact that he's reduced how much he's golfing. He's not as physically active. And in terms of the fact that he's had 2 MRIs this year, I believe, multiple checkups. We're supposed to ignore all of that and believe the gaslighting, be susceptible to the gaslighting of corporate government media, state-controlled media, and the Republicans to be like, oh yeah, he's fit as a fiddle. He's totally qualified. Anyway, sorry, I went on my own little rant there. So this person was saying, hey, Dr. Dexter, could you tell us in your medical opinion, what's going on with Trump and his dementia? And I've talked about this multiple times because I was the caregiver for my dad who had Lewy body dementia, and not only taking care of him, but also interacting with other members of his community, right? Folks in his assisted living and then memory care facility. I'm very familiar. That pattern recognition is just pinging the whole time when I'm watching Donald Trump. Okay, so Maxine's answer. I do not have any access to his healthcare records, but falling asleep in your briefing meetings in the Oval Office is not normal. The Congresswoman is referencing this incident from the other day.
People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia. All the things we know are associated with obesity. And
from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Oz, kick rocks. You are an actual physician, and you have sold your soul to grift. I mean, you've done it for years since Oprah initially platformed you. That's a whole other conversation, how many terrible grifters Oprah has platformed over the years. But Dr. fucking Oz is up there shilling for Ozempic, right? This obsession with thinness, with weight loss, I've talked about that before. Under fascism, skinny is always in. You're far easier to control if you are constantly hungry and if you are constantly preoccupied with shrinking your body. Constantly comparing yourself, you're policing your own body, makes it much easier for you to accept other people policing you. But anyway, in the midst of that speech, he was describing all of these things that Donald Trump was like literally exhibiting in that moment. This is an Oval Office briefing about a weight loss drug when RFK Jr. has said that Americans don't need cancer screenings, when veterans at the VA cannot get the COVID booster, when RFK Jr. has ended funding for stroke research, cancer research, diabetes research, cerebral palsy research, cystic fibrosis research. No, we got to focus on weight loss drugs. The grift is fucking unbelievable. Anyway, okay, but in that meeting, this is Donald Trump.
Americans will lose 135 billion pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia. All the things we know are associated with obesity and much more.
He's nodding off in a conversation about sleep apnea, obesity, and dementia. But let's get back to what Dr. Dexter said in this town hall today. She said, having a second routine health screening in a year is not normal for the president. She also said getting an MRI at a routine health screening is not normal. She said he's clearly having medical interventions. We've all seen the plaster that he wears on his hand to cover up bruising. We've all seen the cankles. We've all seen the weird gait that he has where he kind of drags and swings his foot. And then Dr. Dexter said something that I really appreciated. She said, yeah, he's not healthy, but neither are you. And everybody laughed and laughed, but she makes a really good point here, right? Just because somebody may be in ill health, ill physical health, that doesn't mean that they're not actually, qualified to lead a country or to do their job. I thought it was really considerate of her to make sure that we weren't all throwing some ableism on this fire, right? Maxine said, yeah, we've had presidents in the past who've had significant health issues, but they could still lead the country. And this thing that she said next, I think, is what we all need to listen into. This is such a good point. She said, the problem is not his health issues. The problem is that he is shameless and he has a personality disorder. She said he cares about himself more than he cares about the people he serves. And that the United States of America, like, we never prepared, our founding fathers, our checks and balances, never prepared for a malignant narcissist in the White House. She didn't say malignant narcissist, I did. She said personality disorder. But I agree with her. The problem really isn't his physical state, right? His dementia is very concerning. And I do think he's been given this project of the East Wing and this big ballroom. I think that is very much like how when folks are in memory care, they often give them a baby doll to care for or a basket of washcloths to fold. That's very much what I think is happening with the ballroom. That is something to keep him occupied. But even if his cognitive status was fantastic, even if he was the sharpest one in the room, the issue is not really that. It's the fact that he is a shameless, grifting narcissist who wants to inflict pain on the American people. At another point in the town hall, Maxine said that Republicans, their goal is to destroy this country, is to render every part of our government non-functional. That's in Project 2025. And I think she's right. I think, there are strategic reasons that Russell Vought and Stephen Miller want to do something like that, because that's part of rendering a government non-functional means that authoritarians can take over very easily. But for Donald Trump, I think also it's about punishment. It's also because he enjoys making people suffer. The cruelty absolutely is the point. And that in and of itself is a reason that he should never have been in charge of this country. And I agree with Maxine. We don't have a playbook for this in the United States because we didn't anticipate that we would be in a situation like this, which is why I think we have to look to other countries. Because malignant narcissism is not unique to Donald Trump, right? The term was crafted for Adolf Hitler. And it is a hallmark of pretty universally a hallmark of dictators, of autocrats around the world, which could spark a whole other conversation about why it is that we as human beings are so prone to allowing this dynamic to play out over and over again, why we are so prone to allowing malignant narcissists to attain this level of power and influence and cause so much harm over and over again. Why is it that it takes so late in the stage for people to get their shit together and to combat it? I think a lot of us who were screaming really early on about this understood that it was going to take much more advancement of his terrible agenda before people woke up and started organizing against it. And we are now in earnest, right? I feel like there's that tipping point. We are now seeing this acceleration of the resistance movement. But damn, I wish there was a way that we as human beings did not have to repeat this lesson over and over before we figured out ways to strategize against it. Anyway, appreciated the question. As funny as it was, I thought Maxine's insight here was spot on. It's not so much the dementia or whatever, the dwindles, whatever's going on with him. What it really is the fact that he's a malignant narcissist. And narcissists don't stop until you stop them. He's not going to have a conscience that you can appeal to. He doesn't have a sense of compassion. He doesn't have empathy. There's no reasoning with him. There's no appealing to his good side. There's none of that. There's none of that. These guys don't stop unless you stop them. And that takes organizing, nonviolent direct action, building a huge, massive groundswell of the people coming together and eroding those pillars of support under Donald Trump, because this frail, aging, sundowning narcissist is still being held up by all of those corporations, institutions, and people around him in government. And the more we can chip away at those folks, he'll just nod off and then he'll just topple right on over. Doesn't require violence. But we cannot be complacent. We must be organizing in earnest.